Hey, what's happening, everyone? Happy Tuesday, and welcome to this week's version of Urshel Speaks, and doing something a little bit different today. So bear with me while we have a little bit of fun here with my gimbal. But today, again, solving the world's biggest problems, right? Addressing the things that matter most in life, with the desire to be the right man at the right time, saying the right words to change the world. And today I want to talk about, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to say the great thing about humanity or the problem with humanity. And, um, and maybe this conversation is a little bit about both. So, going to be another quick hitter today. I like doing that. But I just want to tell you a couple of stories and in a recent situation that I encountered. And so I live, in a nice suburb north of Dallas called Plano, Texas. For those of you who aren't here or local, and recently, a few weeks ago, on a trail, there's a long trail that goes behind my neighborhood and extends in one direction about 6 miles to a park, and lots of trails and parks to walk where I live. And recently, in an underpass right behind my house, where the walk, really, well, not where it begins, but close to my home, and going under a major road. On that underpass, starting a few weeks ago, I noticed one morning walking my dogs, a gentleman who was obviously homeless, and he was camped out underneath the underpass. It was in the morning, and in this past few weeks, we've been having a lot of rain, and so usually my walks in the morning are early, anywhere from 5:30 to 7, depending on what my schedule or my day is, and even sometimes in the afternoon or early evening, I might take the walk the dogs, and even my son sometimes is on the walk with me. And again, there had been this gentleman there, and he was there every day. And and as each day progressed, it was kind of looking more like, he just didn't just happen to be there, that this had kind of become his place. And, there were clothes that I think he'd probably washed. There's a creek that runs underneath that underpass, and, clothes and socks and shoes hanging out. And several times I walked past him and he was asleep on the concrete. And there's a lot of wildlife and things that run around through there. The first time I encountered him, he saw my dogs. We spoke for just a few minutes, and he was remarking about said I had pretty dogs or something like that. And on some of the times that I passed him, I purposely looked at the things he had there, and I was thinking about maybe what I should bring, and maybe just leave there if he was asleep, or just having thoughts about what my interactions or encounters would be. But then I also had other thoughts. There's tons of people that walk this trail. Lots of people riding bikes, walking, jogging, sometimes even skateboarding. Lots of people walking their pets, and because of the area, I was concerned. I was concerned that there's going to be ladies that walk through that don't feel comfortable, people with small children like me with my son who's 7, and so I had those thoughts as well as to all the possibilities and concerns there. And then last week, one day, I headed out on my walk with the dogs. And as I started rounding the corner where normally I could see his stuff hanging off the railings and that sort of thing, it was all gone. And as I turned, of course, he wasn't there. None of his stuff was there. There were no traces that, he had been there. And I don't know what happened. And I assume, and I think probably the most likely circumstance is that someone probably someone may have called the police and said, hey, there's a guy living under the bridge, living under the underpass, and we don't feel safe. It's our walking trail. I think that that's very likely and also understandable, except that it created an issue with me, in the sense that there was, and the only way that I can describe it is, I had some sadness, that he wasn't there, that I didn't, do something else, that I didn't connect with him, that I didn't, bring him a jar of peanut butter, of which we have almost, it seems like an endless surplus of big jars of peanut butter in our house. And um, and I felt like something, what was just sadness. That's what I felt. That's what I experienced because he wasn't there. And so I went home and I'm thinking about this. I'm doing a little writing and journaling, and I'm trying to wonder what this is. And it reminded me of a couple of things. It reminded me of one more story, and my one of the songs that I've loved for a long time by a group called Arrested Development, and they have this song called Mr. Wendell, and I always love that song, and I've had several encounters that kind of remind me in my life of that song. And the song, go check it out, go Google it. I don't. I was thinking about playing it, but I don't know, Mark, if Facebook would allow me to do that, or I'd have to do I don't know, the rights to this song sort of thing. But it's the speech from Arrested Development is, says, here, have a dollar. In fact, no, brother man, here, have two. $2 is a snack for me, but it means a big deal to you. Be strong, serve God only. Know that if you do, beautiful heaven awaits. That's the poem I wrote for the first time. I saw a man with no clothes, no money, no plate, Mr. Wendell. And he goes on to talk about in this song how this relationship developed between him and this previously nameless man, Mr. Wendell. But after encountering him and starting talking to him, he says, he gives me some knowledge and I buy him some shoes. And there's this exchange of life that happens between him in this song and Mr. Wendell. And there about a year and a half ago, I had another experience also with a man that was homeless pushing a cart. And to me, he kind of looked like, Mr. Wendell. And I'm driving, and I had my dog with me. I don't know why my dogs keep showing up in this story. Maybe I'm supposed to learn from them as well. But I'm driving. I see this guy. I felt like I needed to go talk to him. I happen to have some cash on me, so I circled back around, and he's pushing this big cart full of stuff. And I pull over, talk to him, and he's walking and eating, and we have about a 45-minute conversation. And as we start talking, he starts, telling me all this stuff about history. And he is a homeless man, but he has a business, and he does cleaning for some office spaces, and they pay him. But he's sharing all of these things with me, and I'm learning. And as a matter of fact, he's the first person to talk to me about what happened. I had an office in a building called Rosewood, and he starts telling me about Rosewood in Florida and things that happened historically there. And so I'm just, having this conversation with it, and I'm, just soaking in all of these things that he's saying to me, all of this stuff that he's sharing with me, and it's very powerful. And then it's getting to the point where, it's 45 minutes. I've been talking, standing outside. I'm probably supposed to be somewhere else. And so I tell him I need to go. I give him a handshake and with the cash that I had in my hand. He didn't even look at it. He just, took it and he put it in a little bag that was on his cart that he was pushing down the road. And then he talks for a few more minutes, and I'm at this point I'm hanging on every word that this man is saying. And then he looks at me right in the eye and he points his finger at me and he says, "Listen, young man, stay dangerous. Stay dangerous. Never let them think that you're not dangerous. Never let them believe that you're not powerful. And never forget that you are a danger to the status quo. And you're supposed to make a difference." I get in my car and my head is just exploding. My heart's on fire. And I'm like, wow, And I saw this guy a few other times walking down the road. I even saw him the last time I saw him. I don't know what had happened, but the police were talking to him on the side of the road. And there's a place where I couldn't turn around. But again, I felt this connection. I felt in my heart something powerful just from this conversation and this one interaction with this man. And I could tell you a whole bunch of stories. I could tell you about this bout with humanity that I had coming back from Kuwait City into Saudi Arabia in a 17 vehicle convoy of POWs that we were transporting back into Saudi Arabia, Iraqi POWs. But all of that, and Arrested Development's song and speeches verses about Mr. Wendell just remind me of the great thing about humanity and also the problem with humanity. The question is, why do I feel this connection to this homeless person under the bridge? Why were the words of this individual so powerful to me? And I think the thing that we forget throughout the course of our busy lives and our internet and our jobs and all the things that we experience, I think that we forget that we're all connected. The concept of race is a social construct. That doesn't mean there aren't some realities that we have to deal with, but anthropologically, there's no difference between any of us, or very little difference between any of us in the human race. And there is a connection, there is an origin, there is a substance, and there is something that ties us, spiritually ties all of us together. And I think the biggest challenge and our greatest asset is that we all are linked together. As and I'm doing less, I'm purposely doing less, but as I scroll through my feed, as I read and as I watch the news, there's so much amplification of the things that separate us, of the things that divide us, and it sells, it's marketable. A while back I was, asking the question, and I think we even talked about it. Why does negativity sell? Why does conflict? Why do all of these things sell? Why are they so marketable? Why do people get addicted to it and emotionally attached to the negativity that we see on the news and that we read about? And, part of it goes back to our old lizard prehistoric brain that actually reacts and remembers negative things, harmful things, more than it does positive things. And the reason why, if you think about it, if a small child touches the kitchen counter, that's not a memorable experience. If a child touches the stove and it's hot, that's a memorable experience. And so when survival was our number one priority in life, our brain attaches to things that are negative, things that could be harmful. And so now we're not living every day, worrying about being eaten by another animal or that sort of thing, but still it attaches to our brain a little bit better. It creates more of a stain, more of an emotional connection. And so the news outlets, they sell us this negativity. And I think what has happened over time and what continues to plague humanity is that we forget that we're all connected. We forget, you know, in the Marine Corps, we sang lots of songs that had to do with war and lots of songs that were absolutely, inhumane. And there's a reason why, the nature of the business. And the nature of the business doesn't um, always lend to being compassionate and loving to every human being, because there's the reality that there's an enemy, and one day you may face an enemy who wants to take your life. And so you don't look at that enemy as a son. You don't look at that enemy as a father. You don't look at that enemy as someone's best friend. You don't look at that enemy as someone who, appreciates, the finer things in life, or likes the same type of bourbon that you do. You don't do any of those things. You almost see that person as a target. And even though there's nothing individually conflicting between us as people, we have to create this mindset that they're bad guys, we're good guys. And that reality throughout our life, especially in our daily existence, um, it can be harmful. And it creates so many of the challenges that we face. And we've got to do everything that we can. I think that this is really important, to look at the world, to look at the people around us, the people we don't know, the people that we make eye contact when we walk down the street, knowing nothing about them. I think that if we start appreciating just the beauty of the connection of all of us as humans, our humanity, thinking about every person that you ever encounter in life was this precious, gorgeous little baby that a mother and a father looked at, and they saw all the possibility in the world. And they looked at that person, and that baby, and they said, you can be anything you want to be, and you're the most beautiful and the most perfect. And oh, I just love to hear you coo. And oh, your baby poop is so, sweet and wonderful. Someone looked at every single person that you encounter in life as that little precious, beautiful baby. And that's the reality of humanity. And not only that, we're connected to all of those people. I don't know all the value of that man that was sleeping underneath the bridge. I don't know any of it. I know that the first thing he ever said to me was a compliment to my dogs that I love and I cherish. That's the first thing he ever said. And in that case, that was the most substantial conversation that we had. But he showed appreciation to me. And my concern was more about, what are we going to do about this guy sleeping under the underpass? And I know that the key to us, one of the keys to us living life to its fullest, and I know for me, living life on purpose really requires that I respect the humanity in every person that I encounter, every person that I see it that way. When you do yoga, and they give you that greeting at the end of the class, the light in me, honors the light in you. Many of these types of greetings, there's a lot of power in the understanding that goes behind that. And there is so much that is missing in our day-to-day life. And I think part of it is we forget about this human connection. There's so many people that I love, so many people that love me, so many people that add value to my life. Why would I be so foolish as to dismiss some people, dismiss a group of people, automatically put whole swaths of humanity into a certain package of belief in my mind because of what I've been told rather than what I've experienced? Automatically believing because of what someone believes, because of who someone loves, because of what someone looks like, because of someone's mistakes in their past, that I can devalue their humanity and devalue who they are, devalue their culture because it's different from mine. And so I'm really thankful for the man under the bridge. Um, I'm glad that it made me sad that when he wasn't there, because it reminded me of how I need to view and how I need to see every person that I encounter and realize that there's gold in our hills. I mean, there's every person is full of gold and diamonds. The words that that gentleman shared with me and told me to stay dangerous to the status quo. Never let them think it was safe to not pursue more greatness when I'm around. I mean, that's, I've taken a lot of classes and a lot of courses, listened to a lot of sermons and a lot of messages. That one burned in my heart. And this is a guy pushing a cart on the side of the road and cleaning people's buildings so that he can eat. So the great thing about humanity is that we're all connected. The challenge with humanity is that it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget how valuable each person that we encounter is. And that when we miss that value, it's something that we miss. There's a passage in the Bible that says if you receive a prophet in the name of a prophet, you receive a prophet's reward. And what that really means is as long as you value a person at the highest level, the value and the benefit that you get as a result of that corresponds and it's also at the highest level. And if you devalue someone, or if you take someone who's up here and you only receive them down here, then what you get out of that life, out of that part of humanity, is much lower. And so let's choose to place the highest value on every human that we encounter. And I think that that will change so many things for us. It'll change our life while it's also changing the lives of those that we encounter and those that we're around. Hey, this is Urshel. Urshel Speaks. I love humanity. I love you. Leave me a comment, whether you're watching or listening to this live or on YouTube. Make sure you go to YouTube, like and subscribe and share. And the humanity, the life, the love, the eternity in me sees and loves the light and the eternity in you. And let's make this world a better place. This is Urshel Speaks. Have a great one.